Hey y'all, I have had a number of people get in touch with me in the past couple of days asking me to do a backpacking gear video. So I thought I would do one, and I think I'll do a separate one for a day hiking guide, but I'll just start with my backpacking gear. And I have not written a script, so hopefully this won't be boring or crazy long, but yeah, so we'll get started. So my tent, I have several different tents that I can choose from depending on how many people are going and the weight that I want to carry. I've been experimenting with different ones, but my first one that I got was the Sierra Designs Flashlight UL1. I got this on a used gear site. This actually does come with some poles, although you can save some weight by using trekking poles. And I can attach a link to all of these tents. You can see pictures of them set up. You've probably seen this one. I love this tent. There's a picture of it, my cover photo on my Facebook page. But the reason why I like it is because it's a trekking pole tent, the peak height is really high. And it's also offset from the center. So when you're sitting up on your sleeping mat, as you would, like when you wake up, the tallest part of the tent is actually over your head, as opposed to being in the middle. So the trekking pole tents, where the trekking poles are set up in the middle of the tent, you know, it's that very typical like pyramid teepee design. Your head actually hits it when you sit up, but with the offset design, you avoid that, which is really good. This is a single wall tent, which means you do have to deal with condensation, but for me, I actually think it's easier to deal with than a double wall tent, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But this weighs about 2.25 pounds. It does have to have one pole that goes down at the foot end, which was great for me because it helps with structure, and since this was my first trekking pole tent, that was very helpful. I think it takes 8 stakes, so those all go in this little bag along with the poles. I don't use the vertical poles anymore. I just use my trekking poles. But anyway, so this all goes together. From there, I bought this Durston X-Mid 2-person tent. And so this is what I use when going with someone else. This is also a trekking pole tent. This has a very unique design. It is like a trapezoid design. It's very hard to explain. But the only downside of this tent, in my opinion, is that it requires a lot of floor space. So like you have to be able to find a big open space in the woods to be able to use this. It has giant vestibules, which is great if it rains. This tent is extremely storm worthy. I was stuck in a sleet storm or a hailstorm in Wyoming with crazy winds. I'm thinking probably 40, 50 mile per hour winds. And this tent held up like a champ. I was pretty amazed. The material is Sil Poly, which is a little better than Sil Nylon in my opinion. It doesn't absorb the water and it doesn't stretch. So when it gets wet, you're not going to be carrying as much water weight around, and it's not going to stretch and start sagging like Sil Nylon tents will. So that was a big reason why I got this. This is actually considered to be a double wall tent. The inner is mostly mesh except for the floor, so it's very lightweight. I believe the total weight of this is 2 pounds, somewhere around there. So it's actually a little bit lighter than my 1-person tent. And this, by the way, is a Sil Nylon, but slightly thicker than what you find typically. This is actually a slightly older tent. So I've never had any issues with that sagging or anything. But yeah, love the Durston X-Mid 2. I'm just hitting like the major highlights here. Okay, the next tent I got was this Z-Packs Offset Solo. And a lot of people don't like this because this requires one carbon fiber pole that you put down at the foot end. So like you have to carry something extra. I don't think it's that big of a deal. This is what I took out on my last AT section hike, and I really love it. This is made out of Dyneema. which is completely water resistant. It doesn't absorb any water. You can just shake it out and it dries really quickly. It's extremely lightweight. This tent is, I think, 18 or 19 ounces, so less than 2 pounds. It's considered to be a 1.5 person tent because it's just extra wide, which I got because I wanted to be able to store my gear inside, which is something that I can't do with this one. So that's like the only thing I don't love about this tent. There's no vestibules really. It's a really unique design. And it was hard to fit my gear inside because it really is a 1 person tent. This one's wider and I can fit my gear inside, still have room to spare. It has that offset design. So again, when I sit up on my sleeping mat, the highest peak is above my head so I don't hit it. This does take some time to get used to set up. So that is definitely a challenge with this one. And if you don't pitch it correctly, you can get some leakage inside your tent because down around the perimeter of the tent is mesh where the condensation is supposed to drip and leak out. So this is also a single wall tent. So let's talk about the condensation issue. Yeah, you're gonna get condensation with a single wall tent, and there are ways that you can mitigate that, like don't camp near water, don't camp on grass, and just try to have good airflow. Obviously the temperature is going to play a factor. There's all kinds of things that play into it. You're going to get condensation, but the thing is, when you get condensation in a single wall tent, all you have to do is bring one of these ShamWow, and wipe it down, and you can dry it off. Whereas, like if you have a double wall tent, it's a lot more difficult to do that because you have the inner in the way. You can't just wipe down the inside of the outer, which is where all the condensation is going to collect, because the inner is in the way, unless you can somehow separate them. But to me, that's more tedious. When I wake up in the morning in my single wall tents, I have this and I just immediately start wiping it down so it can start drying out. And usually that's enough unless it's just tons of condensation. The other thing is that you have to be really careful about not hitting the sides of the tent when there's condensation, because whatever touches it will get wet. So your sleeping bag will get wet, your clothes will get wet, you will get wet, depending on how much condensation is in there. So you just have to be careful of that. And so that is why the offset design is so great, because you're less likely to hit things when you have the space to move around. Okay, last tent. This is a Tarp tent, double rainbow Li lithium. Basically, it's their term for Dyneema. So this is the same material as this ZPAX tent. Now, Dyneema is very expensive. So it was a major investment. I got this on a used gear site, but that was there's pros and cons to that. I got it from a very reputable seller, but he had this for a couple of years. He didn't use a ground sheet. He lived out in Utah, so there was actually a tear in the floor of this tent, which I can repair. I haven't repaired it yet, but I can repair it. But that's the thing, when you buy used gears, it might be slightly damaged. This is great because it has a pole that goes over the arch like a rainbow, and it gives it that nice structure. There's lots of room inside, and you can actually make this a freestanding tent. Freestanding means that it can stand on its own without the use of stakes. So all of these tents that I've shown you so far require like 6 to 8 stakes to set up, because it's using tension from the guy lines to pitch the tent as opposed to poles, and you're saving weight that way because tent poles are really heavy. So this just has one pole. However, you can use your trekking poles along the edge of the tent, like horizontally. There's clips that you attach to it, and it can make it a freestanding tent, which is a pretty cool design. There's lots of other great features to this tent. I've only used it twice. I have to fix the floor. This is a little bit heavier. This is, I think, 2 pounds-ish, maybe just over 2 pounds. But this is considered to be a 2-person tent. It's a very tight 2-person tent. Honestly, I did use it as a 2-person tent once, and it was a little cramped for my taste. But as a 1-person tent, it is a palace. So, I don't know. I may not keep this one since I really like the Z-Packs, but this is a more fail-safe setup. So this might be better in the rain. This is just risky. If you don't get a good pitch, you could get rain inside, and that's not good. But anyway, okay. So ground cloths, I use ground cloths because I don't want the bottom of my tent damaged. These cost way too much money. So the 2 options that you can go with, this is a Polycro, I think is what it's called. It's just a thin sheet of plastic. You can actually get it at hardware stores, and you just cut it to size. It weighs like nothing, and it dries out relatively quickly. The only thing is that it can blow away really easily, so you have to weight it down with some rocks. But this is typically what I bring. The other option that people use is Tyvek, which is a little bit heavier, but it's sturdier. Honestly, it's a little easier to deal with. Like, it's heavier, so it's not going to blow away. It's a little easier to shake out. So I do like bringing this, and then I can use it also when I get to camp as sort of a tarp, where I can just put it on the ground and then unpack my pack, and my stuff doesn't get dirty. So that's kind of a nice thing about using Tyvek. My Durston actually bought the ground sheet that goes with it, and I recommend, because it's such an odd shaped tent with that trapezoid design, that the one that goes with the tent is actually, it's really nice. I might have to make multiple videos. I'm already at 12 minutes. Okay, sorry you guys. Next, sleeping bag. This is what I use. This is a quilt. This is a down quilt. It's rated to 20 degrees. And this particular brand, which is UGQ, it's a cottage gear company out of Utah. They comfort rate their quilts. Although I've only taken this down to 25 degrees, and I was wearing all my layers, and I was warm, but I don't know if I would do 20 degrees within this. But anyway, a quilt is different from a sleeping bag in that it has no back, it has no bottom to it. And the theory behind that is that when you have a sleeping bag and you're laying on it, you're just compressing all of that on the bottom. It's serving no purpose, really. Your warmth, your insulation actually comes from your sleeping mat, which I'll get to in just a little bit. So how this works is there are elastic clips. Here we go. These elastic loops go around my sleeping mat, and then there are these plastic clips. I have 2 of these, and the quilt clips into the plastic clips that are, you know, sort of attached to your sleeping pad via these elastic loops. So with this design, it actually goes underneath my mat. Other quilts, they're supposed to go on top of your mat. And so it's a little more roomy than a sleeping bag. It's more versatile because I can unzip this completely. So when it's hot outside, it can just be like a blanket. But right now I have it zipped up, and of course there's a drawstring down at the bottom so that it's all nice and snug when it's cold. Another feature about the UGQ quilt that sold me is it has this dynamic tension control around the perimeter of the quilt. So it's right here. Oh wait, where is it? Oh, here it is. Nope. I'll find it in a second. What it does is that you can cinch it so that it just has a more snug fit, and there's less likelihood for drafts sneaking in. I don't know why I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. It's right here. Okay. Okay, and then the last thing, this clips around, you know, your chest area, and this is a draft collar. So it's super nice and cozy. You can tighten it with this little draw cord here without having to, you know, get your arms out. And it's just super fluffy and light and cozy, and you get to choose colors, and I love this so much. Okay, I think I'll do my sleeping mat next, and then I will start my next video. So the sleeping mat I'm using right now is this Nemo Tensor Insulated. There's a version that's not insulated. It's not going to be nearly as warm. You know the warmth of a sleeping pad based on the R value. So the higher the R value, the more warmth it's going to provide. This is like a 4.3 or 4.4, which is good for 3-season camping. We're not taking this out in the winter, and in fact, when it gets below 35 degrees or probably even 40, I will put something underneath this for extra protection, and that is this thin foam mat. This one's from ULA, which is the company that made my backpack, but Gossamer Gear is the most popular one to get. It's just a super light, thin piece of foam. This one's seen better days, but this serves multi-purposes, and that is how you're gonna cut pack weight, is by getting items that have multi-purpose or multi-uses. So what are all the things I use this for? Well, I use it underneath my sleeping mat as extra insulation, and you wouldn't believe it. It really does. It also protects it from any moisture that might get into the tent, which when I discovered the leak in this tent was super useful, because my mat and everything, it didn't get wet. I will use this as a sit pad or like a lounge pad when I take breaks, when I'm hiking. And I also will use this to lay my stuff out on at camp so it doesn't get messed up. And I just sit on it at camp when I don't bring a chair. So this is really great. It has so many different purposes. But yeah, like I said, I will put that under my mat to add just a little extra insulation when it's really cold. I like this. It's comfortable, and it's very lightweight. I think it weighs like a pound. I have another one. It's Thermarest. I forget the model of it. It's really old. I got it like 8 or 10 years ago. It's super comfy. It's a little more comfortable than this, honestly. It's a little longer too, but it's also heavier. It's, I don't know, maybe 1.5 pounds. So I will use that one if I don't care about weight, because it is slightly more comfortable, and I do like the longer length. This one is just long enough for me. I'm 5'8". So if I were any taller, I would have to get the long length for me. But yeah. Okay, no, I feel like I should finish my sleep system, so I'll try to speed it up. When I'm not concerned about weight and space, I will bring this pillow. It's the Thermarest compressible foam pillow. This is the medium size. This is super comfy. I love it. Yes, but it's not light. It weighs a pound, and it's not compact. I mean, you really cannot get it to squish very small. But I've tried so many different pillows, and this is the first one that I got, and it is still the most comfortable for me. I really do like it. Inflatable pillows are usually the way people go, just because they're easy and they're small and they're lightweight, but I have yet to find one that's comfortable. This one's okay. This is a Trekology. I got it from Amazon. It weighs like 3 or 4 ounces. It's your typical inflatable pillow. This one's a little better than the others because of the shape of it, and it kind of has this little dip in the middle of it when it's inflated. That's nice. but it still just feels like a balloon. And honestly, I'm more comfortable using my clothes in a stuff sack. Speaking of, I'll just go ahead and show that to you. So this is my stuff sack. It is, this is Dyneema. I got this from Hilltop Packs. This weighs like nothing. The reason why I got this is I used to not have a waterproof stuff sack for my clothes, and one time water got into my tent and my clothes got damp. So this is gonna keep my clothes from getting wet. So yeah, that's very important. But yeah, so I'll put my clothes in here, and then I'll usually put my puffy on top. So it has like a nice little fluffy insulation, and that's what I use for my pillow most often. Just a couple more things. So when I'm using a quilt, I'm sleeping on, like I'm laying on my pad. And I don't want to get that dirty because you can't really clean it. So I will usually bring this silk sleeping bag liner from Rab. This weighs like 3 or 4 ounces. It's really soft and luxurious feeling, and I just put it around my mat like a sheet, really. So that's a good way to keep your mat clean. There's so many different options of sleeping bag liners. This is the lightest one I could find. So, you know, weight is definitely of importance. Okay, last thing, this is my compression sack for my quilt. This is also Dyneema. You do not want your quilt to get wet. So I kind of have double waterproofing techniques, which you'll see, but I just really am paranoid about my sleeping bag getting wet. So this is great because you can stuff it down in there, and this is a compression sack, so it compresses it as small as it can possibly be. Okay, I think that's my sleep system. So I'm gonna stop the video here, and then I'll take another video for additional gear.